Today we are going to, of course, play with watercolors because it's that time of year. It's watercolor month, and it's just watercolors are so much fun. But we're going to do work on, or I'm going to kind of explore and help, hopefully inspire you to try mineral paper if you haven't already. Mineral paper, I'm going to just kind of go over that a little bit. Mineral paper is made of mostly calcium carbonate with a little bit of recycled plastic bottle kind of material, PET, to bind it. But it's actually been around for a long time, used in packaging and paper alternatives because it doesn't use trees. It's a very amazing product, and it's kind of feels like our particular one feels like a very smooth eggshell. And it's opaque, fairly opaque. I mean, I could say there's a little translucency to our this particular one, which is the GSM is 100 pound, 150 GSM. That one we have in this size, 9 by 12 and 11 by 14. These three sizes we have, and it's just our normal weight. It's a nice weight. Thing about mineral paper, you don't have to worry about it wrinkling, no matter how thin it is. So that's what I love about it, is that you can just paint your heart out and it's not going to buckle, and it's very durable. You can do things to it that you wouldn't do to your normal watercolor paper, and I'm going to show you that today. We also have this newest, it's sort of new. This is a 160 pound. It's a lot heavier, nice weight to it, and it's in a 11 by 14 size, and it feels a lot heavier, but it is really durable. I'm going to work on this as well, not this size because it's just too big for my table to show you everything, but I cut mine down into 4 sheets, and basically I love working small anyway, so it's easy to cut. This cuts like butter on either a cutter, paper cutter, or scissors. It feels like you're gliding through velvet. It's very easy to cut. And anyway, so that's our mineral paper. You can work on both sides. There's no right or wrong side that I know of with this stuff. And it's great for all water media, water-based media, watercolor pencils you can use, acrylic paints. You could use markers like acrylic markers. And today, though, I'm just going to work kind of traditionally using watercolors. I'm also going to do a few fun things with stencils too. But a couple of things. So I'm going to use our Niji watercolors, of course. I love these, my little go-to set. And I might bring in some other ones just for fun to show you that you can use any watercolors. I've got the Niji. These are the, oh boy, I forgot what these are called. All of a sudden, Phoebe, you can help me with that. These are our, oh boy, it's a set that we have.
Yeah, sorry, I had to find which mute button to fix. That's our Niji premium watercolor set that comes in tubes.
Thank you. And I don't use these so much because I love the little convenience of the little half pans, but these were squeezed out in this tray, which is a palette that Yasutomo's had for a long time, and I love it. You're able to I can get all my colors in any brand, but get my colors in there, get my metallics, which I love these metallics, by the way, in this set. And so I've got my little set. So I'm going to just kind of talk to you about that. I mean, I'm going to use that kind of stuff. I'm also using my fusion brushes today. That's pretty much it. Fusion brushes. I got lots of water, and I've got a water bottle with distilled water, clear water. So if you're going to paint with me, a couple of the things you might want to try, if you have baby wipes, those little wet wipes that we use, that is a great thing to have. Another thing to have is a little damp sponge. If you have a makeup sponge or some dense sponge like this, would be great. Another thing I'd like to try, I haven't tried it yet, but I just thought it'd be fun. These are little hand sanitizing wipes with alcohol. I'm wondering, I'm going to try something with this. Not only is it good for, making my hands clean, it might be good for something I'm going to try. This would be a first time I'll try it while I'm here with everybody. So, and if anybody's here, I can't see a screen as far as, if anybody's here right now, I want to say hello to anybody and everybody who's here. I wish I can cue up this.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces here. We have Lynn and Julie, Jamie, Lori. I'm probably missing a lot of names. Chris, Kitty. Oh, I'm just
Hi,
scrolling
Kitty.
up.
Hi, Julie.
Wanda.
Wanda's here too. Cool. Yeah, well, wonderful. I think probably Beth is here, even though she's not on Facebook. I know she can. So I want to just say hi to everybody, that I miss a lot of you that I haven't seen in a couple months, and looking forward to seeing you all again, real in, face to face, or at least Zoom. So let me just go over what we're going to do, what I'm going to do today. And if you want to do this, let's do it together. I'm going to pick up my little pretties. I'm going to put aside for now. These are the ones that I worked on past few days, and I've got one in progress, and I just want to show you just some techniques or some things that we're going to do. So the first one, this is I just did this maybe 15-20 minutes ago, just had enough time to dry, and look at that gorgeous blend of color. And I love the way mineral paper accepts the watercolor, and if you can see, there's like a nice little edge that it creates. I don't know if you see that, but wow, it's really cool. So I'm going to just take these away for this moment, and I'm just going to show you a few things. I'm going to do a wash, kind of like this. I'm probably duplicate this or similar to this. And this is just basically if you want to lay down a background, you can lift the color and I've got some ways that I can show you how to lift the color, much different than if you were working on cotton paper. This is something that you can really enjoy. And it's also making a wash like this for your first attempt with mineral paper is a really good way to learn about how mineral paper works, how it accepts paint. So I'm just going to take my Niji watercolors, and you have to be aware though of the staining qualities of colors and the non-staining. There's some colors stain, some don't. I forgot which one stayed on this one. My test isn't on this swatch thing. I'm just going to go ahead and use some blues and indigo and grays. And I've just got a flat wash brush. Very loud car just went by. And I like to moisten my colors first. And I'm not going to moisten the mineral paper, but we're going to do that we're going to do that in another exercise. But just going to leave it dry, got some colors started, and I'm just going to go ahead. And this is where it's relaxing, no pressure. Just put some color down, and I'm going to leave the edges. I'm going to leave a little white edge, and I don't have to hurry. I'm just going to start here, and you can notice if you see it, it's sort of beating up. Now, in that, each time I touch mineral paper, each page is differently. It's kind of funny how that works. So I'm just going to grab some more pink. I'm going to show you if you want to do a wet on wet wash, or not a wet on wet, but a smooth wash. You just need to kind of get it wet a couple times. Like the first time you put the color down, it sort of beads up, or it feels like it's going to. But as I smooth it out, it's actually laying down nicely, and it's not beating up. It's not acting like Yupo would, which would just, you would see lots of bubbles, and which is a nice effect on its own. That's probably, one of the reasons why people love it. But this one, I'm getting a really interesting effect, especially on the edge. I love the way that edge looks, and I'm just doing a kind of a medium, moderate layer of color, and I'm not doing it like I would on cotton. There's no way I would rub or basically go back and forth like you do on cotton paper. I'm going back and forth, and I can just kind of go back into it. It's not going to damage the mineral paper. So this is the one major difference between this and other papers. Now I've got to try this. This is a granulating color mix, and I just have to try it. So I'm going to stick this as a brand. It's called White Nights, comes out of Russia. And I just have to try it and mix it with the Niji just to see kind of how these colors play together, and to let you know that you can use other brands, of course, with your all watercolors are compatible. And I always like to mix them up. I think it's fun to just see how they play. And I love these deep colors, and I want to get this nice deep color quickly. So that's why I went and put those in. There's probably some black in there. I could probably achieve the same thing by adding the Payne's gray and some of the turquoise, let's say, to get that color I just made, or I just got from that Russian brand, the White Nights. I could probably make this by mixing. Yep, there we go. The Payne's gray with the phthalo green is a very close, cousin to that. So, you can you can try to replicate other colors just by doing that. So what I'm doing is, you could see it's even making like its own little landscape, which is so much fun. And I'm going to lay this, I want it to be darker or more, trying to make it as deep as I can. So just going back into it, and it doesn't seem to hurt to do that. I'm loving this what's going on here. I might even just put some more dark in here, just a little bit, and watching it kind of do its thing on the paper. You can even create like designs. You can put little lines through it like this. And I'm not doing any lifting right now. I just want to deposit color. And whatever your favorite colors are, it's fun to do this, and it's very wet right now. But I think I'm just going to leave that like this. I'll set it aside to dry, and it's going to kind of look similar, not exactly, because it's not the same. It's similar, but this is how it looks when it's dry. So if you make a nice little, like a background, so make a background and then set it aside. You can also do things like this. Just turn it and watch it dribble. I want to keep this. Now I've got a mountain range here. Let's see. Just going to kind of dribble it a little bit, and then I'll maybe dribble it this way. So I've got these really cool things happening here just by turning it. And you notice it's not wrinkling at all, not buckling. I love this stuff. It's just one of those unsung hero substrates that we just need to play with more. You can also just kind of rotate. You see, now I've got waves happening. Looks like crashing waves. Ooh, yeah, there we go. Let's go to the beach. So I'm just kind of just doing that, and I'll let that sit. I'll just leave that there. It may not dry in the hour. It should dry fairly quick, but maybe not as quick as I'd like it to, but that's why I made one ahead of time. So one thing you can do with mineral paper is that if you maybe have an area that's too dark, an area that you wish that you had not, you wish you could lift it, you can do that. There's different ways you can lift, and I'll just kind of show you with just a brush and a paper towel. I'll grab a fresh paper towel or a tissue or something, or a cotton rag. You can just lift it, depending on the staining quality, of course, of the color. You can lift color. I'm just going to take a little bit, and I'm just going to make a little circle just to show you that you can lift out color, which I think is fantastic. So I'm going to do another little circle. Maybe I'll just make a little pattern of circles. And I'm just wetting it, letting it kind of dissolve the color, and then I'm going to pick it up with my paper towel. So a clean brush, so empty your brush of the color, re-wet it, and then you can just do another little spot. However you want to do this. You can make spots, you can wipe out the whole thing if you want. This is kind of a cool way to make patterns, I think, if you wanted to do that. Just like that. Like little bubbly things. So that's one way to lift color, and I love it. Just be able to change your mind, or just make highlights where there were maybe just too many solid areas. And I think that's fun. Another way is if you have stencils, and I just love stencils, because stencils are a fabulous way to just kind of get your creative juices running, and here we go. So I'm going to take this stencil, some stencil I got off Amazon, botanical stencil, and I'm just going to lay it right here. And pretty much want to keep it secured. So I may decide to tape it, but I'm not going to, but I could tape it and do my thing. Here's one way. You take a sponge and you wet it, and you squeeze most of the water out. So basically make it just damp, not drippy wet, because you don't want it drippy wet. So usually what I do is I dipped it in my water, and now I'm just going to kind of blot it with my towel so that it just feels damp. Yeah, you just want that to be nice and damp. And now I'm going to just take it, and I'm going to see how much color lifts, and it does well. If it was a staining color, it may not lift as much, but basically this is how I just need to blot colors, basically blot off the paper towel. Let me do that so you can see. So I take a clean edge and I just drag it and then blot, drag, and you can also turn the sponge around so that you have a fresh, kind of a clean edge, and just go through the stencil and create these shapes, or get the shapes to come out. You can use this with detailed stencils as well, as this one happens to be a very kind of plain one, but it works great for those really highly detailed stencils. So it's really fun. I'll have another stencil. Once that other one dries, I'll show you. But I'm just kind of blotting. Now, if I wanted to get it lighter even, I could take my baby wipe and really scrub. I mean, you can scrub, scrub, scrub. See how it's getting lighter? You can't do this with cotton, right? We know that. You cannot do that with cotton. So that is one way if you want to get that edge nice, and or just highlights in areas that you wouldn't, be able to do otherwise. Like if I just want to get the tip of this leaf highlighted, I can just rub, scrub, scrub right on the edge of that, and I can get a nice little highlight. Same with that. Now here's what I'm going to do. I haven't tried it before, but I'm going to try the hand sanitizing wipe, because alcohol will probably remove even the staining stuff. So I've got my
Karen, Lori
yes.
asked another question just to add it to the mix. Could you make it look textured by just blotting and not just lifting?
Yes, you could do that, absolutely. Or even take you could do that. It would be a very subtle texture. Now I'm just showing you that the alcohol is not really lifting much more than it's maybe a little bit more, but it's not, if you don't, you can just use a baby wipe if you have one, or a damp piece of cotton, something that if you don't do disposable wipes, I get that. You could do anything that is just like a smooth cotton, or some kind of towel. It's not a terry towel, but something that's smooth. So I'm just going to go ahead and lift it and see how beautiful that lifted. And another cool thing is a stencil for me has these little areas. Let me blot that for you. So I'm just going to blot out. I see some drips, and I want to see if that's going to lift up some color. And it did. So a good way to texture, if you want to create texture, and I'm going to do this on this piece right now. I could spritz it with a alcohol spritzer, or this would be too fine of a mist. But if you have a spritzer that sort of has a wide spread, what do you call it? That sort of messy. I'm gonna just splatter this on like that. I just splattered with my fingers. I'm gonna let that sit for a sec. I'm gonna see if this is gonna give me some texture. This is the first time I've done this too, but I wanted to try. And if I get it, yep, see, it's lifting some color, and I'm able to get some texture. And I can kind of rub it a little bit, and it's only going to lift off the color. I don't know if you see that. It's very subtle, but you lifted off the color that I had gotten wet because I let it sit a little bit. It's not as dramatic as the other stuff, but at least it's something. Now, here's another thing you can do. If you notice the stencil design, I'm going to use a clear, just water only. And I have this little stem that kind of gets cut off because the stencils, as they are made to have these bridges, and they don't look natural. This doesn't look natural. I could either draw in a new thing, or I could just take this brush, wet it like this, and then blot, and then my stem gets connected. If I want to do that, I think I need to soften this one. Ooh, I really did that one in. You notice that the paint didn't come off because I blotted up that really fast. So if I wanted to make this blot up, I'm going to move it. I'll just kind of scrub using the tip of the brush. I'm kind of scrubbing off that color, and now I'm getting that continuous line. Same thing here. I'm going to connect this one. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of basically going onto the mineral paper, kind of scrubbing lightly with my brush. And that's giving me that really cool connection. And you could do this with any of your stencils, and that kind of takes away that feeling of a stencil. So there it is. I got that, and I connected the lines to make it look more like it's, a drawing, continuous drawing. Now, this is a great way too, if you want to layer. You can make layers. Now I've got my first layer here, and maybe I can even do a couple more little circles just to create that fun texture behind there. I think if you
Also,
spritz,
Karen,
yes.
can I ask another question? Another
Yeah.
Karen was asking if the paint or the scrubbing goes through to the back. So if later you could like flip it and show people what it does look like on the back, because this stuff's durable.
Nothing happens to the back. Look at it. It's just like, you can't ruin this stuff. Now, I've even taken this stuff under the sink and scrubbed everything off because I didn't like it. And I had just a little hint of color, a little hint of and you can just keep using it. It's pretty incredible. And here I've got my little edge that I got a little blot thing on. Let me just try to get rid of that. I'll show you. This is just using my, I think that's a wet wipe. Yep, it's not an alcohol. So I'm just going to kind of scrub that edge because I thought that looked a little messy. And look, I got rid of that mess and it's back to this perfectly white area. That as well, I'm just going to take that and clean it up. So you see, we're just like, we can cheat. Watercolor, we can do the watercolor thing and cheat. Basically, I love it. So now with this, I'm going to take my brush. This is the number 2, I think. Yeah, number 2. Number 1 gives you that really fine line, but the number 2 is nice, gives you a fine line as well. I'm going to take some dark green, and I don't know which that is. I'm just going to take some color over here. I feel like trying that stuff, that other stuff. And I'm going to just take my stem and I'm going to start a drawing, kind of using the stencil as my, kind of my guide, but I don't have to stay within the line. I can do what I want, really. It's my painting, right? And the thing that's great about this is you can do this, and if I changed my mind and didn't like it, this is probably a little too, I'm going to change my mind. Watch. See, I changed my mind. I didn't like that. So I'm just going to blot off. Too dark. And I'm just going to go and blot it off. There, I like that better. Better already. So that's what the beauty of this stuff is, that you can change your mind. I think that's amazing. Now I'm going to
Karen,
just
could you also speak, I think you mentioned it earlier, but could you also speak to drying time on mineral paper?
drying time is about the same as watercolor paper, maybe a little. I'm in Arizona, so I can't really be a good judge of it, but you notice. All right, I'll show you. I'm going to show you what I got over here. So this one I did a few minutes ago, you see how it's dried on some parts, and where it's really puddly, it's not. So I'd say it's very similar, maybe a little bit longer than your regular watercolor paper. So I'm just going to make some little lines, kind of like drawing back into this. And I'm just going to kind of make some nice little lines. Now that's where I like this better than I liked what I was doing. That's why I love that I could change my mind. Instead of just giving up on the piece, I was able to just, kind of like, oops, no, I don't like that. And then come back, and I can now come in and do some more, kind of revisit where I want to go with this. And I can also I'll take a little bigger brush. This is the number 3, I think. Yep. And I'm going to grab a different color. I think I'm going to just go with maybe some quinacridone gold. I never thought I'd do that, grab in the gold. I've been doing a lot of yellows, or not yellows, blues lately. And I just might try a little gold. And if I don't like it, I can always change my mind. We'll see. But I'm just going to put a little layer of gold on this leaf and just see if I like it. And I can always blot it off later. I'm just going to do a little soft layer. Yeah, I think I like that. So I'm going to stick with it. Maybe just not do every single one, but just, maybe every other one, maybe just kind of not overthink it. Just going into the areas here with just a thin layer of gold. And I could use metallics, so that would be pretty too, actually. But so you can do this stencil technique as crazy or as detailed as you want. You could create new here we go, just little patterns here. And then I think I'll just stick with that right there. And I'll stop that for now. But just so you know, that's kind of how you can work with that in a stencil. I can go darker, make more layers, make veins on the leaves, and create new things. But I'm going to go to the next thing because I want you to kind of see what I have in mind. I can also draw. If I wanted to use a pen, I can go over with a pen, make more highlights, or bring back some lights with white. But just a fun little way to get an idea of what you can do with this way. So I'm going to set that aside so I can just show you some techniques that we can do. Now, to make those flowers that you saw in the promotion, you see these flowers here. Different ones, or 2 different paintings done on different days. One is with a little spattering of yellow, and the other one has got a lot more warm colors. And kind of thinking I like the one on the right, but you know, it's just a matter of, I don't know. But they're the same technique virtually. But just never can do the same thing twice. You know what I mean? You try to duplicate it, forget it, doesn't work. All right, so let me show you this part here. This is where I take I just spray it all the way with water. You can control it with a small amount too, or just a little, like an area only, but I'm going to show you, I'm just doing an overall wet. I'm wetting it, and it's just not going to wrinkle. You can see there's nothing, I can put this in a bathtub and it's not going to go anywhere. And I can do it again. Now, the wetter you have it, the more spread you'll have. So I'm going to show you on a sort of a really wet area here. I'm going to make a flower shape. I'm going to have a very clean brush, and I'm going to use permanent rose maybe, and yeah, maybe it's just permanent rose to start. I'm going to make just a flower shape, and I'm going to do maybe right here. You can see when I put the color in, it's kind of really soft. The edges are very soft. I don't even have to make, I'm just going to make a rose shape. There we go. Very soft and very super soft edges. Now I'm going to take this side and maybe less water so you can kind of see. I'm just going to blot up a little bit of the water, but not all of it. It's still damp, but it's not as wet as this one. And I'm going to do the same color, or maybe a different, maybe some cadmium red. And try doing the red and maybe a little pink. And then I'm just going to do a nice big flower shape. And I'm just taking my brush and just kind of laying it on its side. And look, the petals are already being made. It's like too easy. Just kind of lay it on its side and make a petal shape. I'm going to put a little more of that permanent rose in here because I love that rose color. I'm just going to let it go in here. And I'm just going to let the flower do what it may. I'm just going to there, leave it like that and let it do its thing. Now this one, I'm going to do a drier. It's not totally dry, but it's drier. It's damp, but not shiny. And I'm going to show you that. So there's so many different ways to get this. I'll do some quinacridone magenta or purple lake or something here. Now this one is, you can see the soft edge. It's a lot more controlled though than this one. This one just kind of went out, and this one is a little bit more controlled. I'm just going to make a large flower shape, and I'm just kind of just going with my intuition. I'm not trying to make it look like anything that I know. Just doing it there like that. So now I've got 3 large flowers here, and they're soft. Now I'll do one more. Hey, I can do another one. Why not? Let's see, I'll go drier. I'm just going to take this little area and dry it up as best I can. It's still a little damp, but just so you can see, I make it like a little bud kind of thing up here. Just a little bud. So if you want to make a flower with me, there we go. And that's just like basically that little bud is like a little kind of a triangle shape. It's nothing much to it. And then maybe another one here. Let's do a little smaller one. There. So I've got 5 pink colored flowers in this. And this is once this dries, I really can't do a lot until it dries. And then I can start working. No, I can start doing other things. What am I saying? I don't have to be limited to time here. I can just I'm gonna make some yellow flowers, but I need to clean out my tray a little. To clean out, it's a little dirty. It has some blue in it. And I'm gonna get that so that's a nice pure yellow, nice bright lemon yellow. And I'm going to just make some little sort of, yeah, little rounded, I don't even know what they are, but they're just little flowery sort of things. There's no name for them. I'm just making them up. So I'm going to do one more right here, like that. So you can make them in different colors. You could make them, actually, it's nice to change up the size a little. There. I tend to sometimes do things that are all uniform in size, and that's not a good thing. I'm going to do another one up here, another group up there. So this, as you can see where the dry is, I'll show you. I'll lift this up so you can really see it. But soft edge, and look at that dry edge, the nice little crisp edge it created. See those little wonderful crisp edges, and then you have the soft edges, depending on the how much water. Very soft, and then it gets a little more sharp at the on the outsides. So that is what I love about working with this. Now, the first thing that I do with this this way of painting is I'm going to connect these to something. Like I'm going to connect them to a stem, and I'm going to start with my Hooker's green, which is over here. And I never use green straight out of the pan, even though Hooker's green is a pretty color. I just never see that in nature. Do you? I mean, it's, well, maybe so, maybe in a tropical leaf or something. But these, or bright green grass. But I usually like to settle, mix some color with it. And I'm going to put a little violet, just a little bit of this, it's mauve. No, it's purple. That's mauve or purple lake, one of the two. And I just barely touch it with that. And you can see I've just created a nice muted green. It's a little less garish. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my my stems up here. I'm just going to create a kind of a little stem thing going on here. And I don't have anything to work from life-wise, but I'm just kind of going with just what I kind of making it up basically as I go. And I want to kind of keep it as natural or as fluid as possible. I'm going to put a little bit more, just using up the stuff I have in my tray, by the way. And I'm going to mix some of that up. Why not? It's all there, colors that are there. And some of this is bleeding, which is great. It gives it that soft, ethereal look. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a stem that goes there, and just connecting the plants to a stem of some sort here. And here, I'm going to figure this one out. It's going to come this way and down. And these will change later, but they're just a kind of a place to put, to make these things happen. If that makes sense. Sometimes when I talk and paint at the same time, I can't I can't explain what I'm doing. I kind of look at the flower and think about where it's coming from, and I may come, the stem may change its direction depending on where I see the stem coming from. So I've got all the stems on these, except I don't have a stem on this one. So I'm going to just grab that, and then I don't have anything on this one. So I'm just going to do that. And you can see what I'm doing. Just kind of, there we go. So I've got a whole group of flowers, and I could add more later, but I've got that basic place. And I can do leaves as well. I'm going to take a bigger brush for that. I'm going to take my number 4. I think that's, yep, number 4. It's the biggest of the fusion brushes. And I'm going to create some leaves using the same color combinations. Maybe a little of that violet, just to tone it down. And now I'm just going to decide, what kind of leaves am I going to make? Am I going to have, funky wobbly leaves, or am I going to have really, it depends, fat leaves, skinny leaves? I think I'm going to make a fat leaf on that one. And then just kind of create your bases for your leaves. And this is all going to get changed. This is going to have little cute leaves, I think. Maybe these will have these little kind of small ones that go like that. But you can just decide how you want to make your leaves, but go have them crisscross each other. They don't have to be perfect, but this is kind of how I go with that. And these are going to have those little cute ones, just little ones, and they don't have to connect to the stem exactly. You're just kind of getting the foundation of your little bouquet or your wildflower thing. And I like to use, actually, this big fat brush, I like to use this little one to make little branches. This is the one, yeah. Yep. So that gives you nice little fine line branches that you can just create with your brush, like that. So that is layer number 1. And then when that dries, I just keep building and building. Same with the flower to bring out details. It's still wet, but I usually wait for this part to dry. This part is dry, so I'll show you to make the details for the flowers. You would just take the same color pretty much that you started with, and you're going to do a second layer with it. So so this one I'm going to do, it's like a bud. So I'm just going to create a little second layer. Now I just need to go ahead and fill the brush with some color. There we are. And then I'm just going to do a like that, just a little something like this, or I can make lines, little curves, whatever kind of floats your boat that way. But starting with the layers, you're going to get darker and darker as you work. And see, I'll just leave that like that. I don't know if you see that. I'm noticing a lot of reflection today. Let's see there. Bold, maybe just bold shapes and some more detailed shapes. And this one is not dry enough yet, but this I might be able to bring it out some layers with that one. So I'm going to show you on that one. This one, if I want to highlight an area, let's say I just thought that maybe it was too dark or I want to bring out some light, this is how you would do it. But basically, like I showed you on the other one, I'm going to grab a piece of a paper towel. And I'm just going to take a little highlight with a clear water, and I'm just going to make a little petal shape, kind of a curve. I'm going to give it just a few moments to sort of dissolve the color, and I'm going to blot. And see, I've got my little highlight there. So you can do that, or you can make dark lowlights. Of course, you can go in and you can take a color, the same color, usually on a flower, I just take the same color that I had used, maybe add a little something, just a shadow color to darken it a little bit, and then I'll just create little shapes that may make the flower look more detailed. Because I don't have a reference photo, I'm just going by my, not memory here on this, but just kind of playing with the colors. And if I don't like it, I love doing this, is blot it off. I love that. That's the part I love about mineral paper. These yellow flowers, I'm going to not overdo these because I do plan to do a background. And the more this is where I start the painterly part. I stop thinking about the subject and I start to just do some colors. And I'm going to do like a green belt here and maybe a sky behind it. So my green belt, or my area that I'm just going to do lots of green, I'm going to take this color here and just start making leaves. I'm making just a background. I need to fill it in is what I need to do, but kind of going with the plants, and I can also do like little dots and just kind of fill the area with color and shapes. And I'm not thinking anymore so much of my subject matter. I'm just kind of going to start making these shapes, and I don't want to cover up any of the flowers. I want to go around them. So like here, you can see I didn't go around that flower. And then I'll get some depth later as I go in layers. And you'll notice too, if you go with across something, you may create a new shape just by going across. And you can make light and dark areas, and I'm loving this so far. I'm just going to kind of play with the leaves kind of going off the flowers, kind of like this maybe, and maybe up that way. And going to leave this area kind of alone. I mean, I could do a little bit of leaves off of that maybe, and some more off of that. And that's kind of how I'm building this, just totally by the seat of my pants. And I'm going to take also that same color, this little color, and I'm going to throw some little snippets of these little buds here and there, just kind of maybe like they're in the background somewhere. There's no, they're not really a foreground thing at all, but I just want to kind of continue that flowery distance kind of thing. And this is we just keep painting. And to do the blue, to do the sky, I could take some ultramarine. Well, this is cerulean blue. And I could do straight blue, but it's just a little too unreal. I'm going to throw a little Payne's gray in there. Cerulean blue and Payne's gray, just a very soft amount. And I could start the background now, and I'll show you how I do it. If I'm doing clouds or if I'm thinking of something atmospheric, I'm just going to go across like so, and I could make it soft by blotting it later, or I could make it have obvious lines. And what I'm doing is I'm not touching my flowers. I don't mind going over the stems, but I want those flowers to kind of stand out. So I'm just going to go around them. And that's kind of how I get my backgrounds. You can see I can get a nice kind of an even, fairly even wash just by gently going while it's still wet into it and just brushing gently across in a horizontal way. For this background back here, I'm going to do more vertical strokes, but you could even, you can see I'm even kind of scrubbing back and forth. Can't do that with watercolor paper. We'll try that and it just will not work. So I'm just kind of scrubbing gently with my brush, just depositing some color to kind of create that sky background. I'm going to do the same. I'll just keep doing that until I fill that in. And if you have an area that dries, like this little section dried, I can just keep scrubbing in where the line is, and that line will disappear. And that's how you get these nice little graduated washes. I can also take my sponge, maybe this one, and just blot ever so slightly to make texture and lines, whatever you love to do. And this is a very meditative process because there's really I'm not trying to make a masterpiece. I'm just playing. And of course, I quit trying to make masterpieces years ago. It doesn't work. And you could leave areas of white for your clouds if you want to have clouds. Here, I'm going to show you how I scrub out clouds. Let's say I wanted more cloud here. This white here is nice, and I just want to make more of an area that gives me that feeling of clouds. I can just create that cloud by blotting with my tissue. So you can do, that's what I love about this. I can soften that area just to give it that cloud shape, or I can use my sponge, or I can even take it and rub it across. But look how, I'll bring that up closer to you. I'm loving what's happening up here. And then as I'll just keep layering and layering until I get the depth. And the depth that I'm talking about is basically layers that get darker and darker as you go. So this one here, I just kept going and going, and it, I got darker and darker, and I could still go darker, more contrast. So I like to do, I'd like it to be high contrast if possible. Here I just kept going darker and darker, and then leaving the flower kind of just surrounding the painting around the flower. So that's that one. But this one might be a better one on its own. Maybe this time I could just leave it more ethereal and light and not too detailed. But I was waiting to give you a little sort of taste of, if you want to make your focal point on your flower, which I think that's dry enough, so I'll go ahead and show you. I'm just going to do a little red. There we go. Nice little place here. And I can do like a little, like a little swirly thing. I can make little things coming out of it. I don't like that so much. I'm going to get rid of that. Don't you love that? You can just get rid of it. I'm going to add a little gray to my red. And I'm just going to create like a little focal, like just a little place that just shows a little detail, but not too much. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to, maybe this time, I'm going to be more illustrative instead of trying to be realistic. I'm just kind of creating some shapes just to kind of give me the impression of a flower. It doesn't have to be exactly a realistic looking flower. Here is this one. And then this one, I'm going to bring that one up, and that's going to have kind of just little lines, little layers. And I'm just playing at this point. And I'm getting these little layers, and I like the idea of maybe taking that and doing the same with around these edges here, these little, just to have some white areas too. Yeah, why not? There we go. Now I'm having more fun because I'm just loosening up finally. And now I can go dark, get some darker, and start building layers. Well, let me show you now. I think this one is dry. Yep, let's see how, so we did it dried in about half an hour, right? Didn't I do this first? I think I did it first. So I'm going to show you, that's the only part that wasn't dry. Let me just show you a beautiful stencil that I got from a lady who's a very good, wonderful artist. And I love her stencils. And this is a new one that I just got, and I just love it. So I'm going to put this off to the side, I think, right? She doesn't need to be perfectly in the center. I'm going to just drop it right there. In fact, it looks like her. I don't know if you know Megan Quinlan, that looks like her. I think she did model it after herself. It's just beautiful. If you don't want to have any white and you might want to mask that off, if you're afraid to get your sponge on the, that, then just mask it off. I'm gonna just be really careful. And I'm gonna lift this with, and just do my turns. Oh yes, I love it. And it needs to be damp, but not dripping. If it's dripping, then what's gonna happen is you're gonna get oozing underneath and it's gonna make a blurry edge. So just kind of try it with my wipes too. So I have, this is maybe a little too wet, but I'm gonna just see. No, not bad. You do want to rotate to have a clean side every time you take off some of the stuff, because that is going to make a difference. Now I'm going to go in here and really scrub it. And I got to get into this detail. And I want to show you that you can get into the detail of a stencil just by kind of going over and scrub. And don't move your stencil. That's probably the best advice I can give you. I hope everybody's doing okay, because you're awfully quiet.
Well, there's actually a couple questions, so maybe
Okay.
I could mention them now.
Yeah.
So one person was asking if the micron is still permanent on the mineral paper.
Yes.
So if you have it on hand, maybe later.
I
you could
do.
show.
Yeah. Now, will it scrub off? I don't know. I haven't tried that. I can try that today. No problem. So let me just give you, I'm going to just finish lifting up as much as I can on this one. And I'm going to do a little scrubbing as well. Yeah, I'll show you the micron and or the detail master. They're pigmented and they'll work. They'll be the same. A Sharpie, definitely, if you wanted to really be sure, a Sharpie won't lift, but let's try. We're going to try it. So I'm just going to create more highlight. I want most of that green out, because what I plan to do with this stencil or this image is I plan to paint something totally different on the inside, or the white areas that I've lifted. So it's going to be a totally different look. But and see how much I got, so much color I got off that. And I'm going to just do a reveal in a second. I just want to get that nice and get that as detailed as possible. And I'm going to lift it off. And now see how it turned out? So the edges got weird. That's not what I wanted. And that's because I switched over to this wet wipe, which is too wet. And that's why the image isn't sharp. So I could start over, and I'm not that happy with this. So what I get to do, this is what I love about it. I get to kind of just smear it, and I get a nice, I've got sort of an impression of that, and I can just do some other stuff. And then basically I have not wasted a piece of paper. I still see the image underneath, so I probably can do something with that later. Well, I'm going to move that over, and I'm going to show you. Oh, here we go. I'm going to show you, since I already did some little drawing with, there we go. These are some little pieces that I was just doing just to kind of test it. And this is where I discovered you can completely erase. But let's just see what we can do. These are our detail masters, which is the same as the micron as far as it's pigmented. Let's see what happens. So I've got, it's water. Got water on there. Let's try. It's not doing anything to it. And now I'm going to grab my wipe and see if I can get it with that. And no, it doesn't. It's not, it actually is lightening it a little as I rub, but not bad. So it kind of softens it. I'm going to show you what I mean. But that's by scrubbing it. But if you just put water on it, it's not going to do anything. You can see just very, very faint, very hard to tell that there's any change. So yeah, it's fantastic. So you can layer in, oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's just see if I can get rid of that green that I just did. Not that it matters. This was just a test thing. But you see that micron or a pigmented pen will not lift. It won't lift a Sharpie. It won't lift a acrylic pen like a Posca. It may, Poscas are a different animal. I mean, they're acrylics, but you may be able to scrub off that. Let's find out, because I have Posca. Not as well, right? This is the time to do it. So I'm going to take a Posca pen. I'm going to just throw in some, let's see, in the dry area here. I'm going to make some little marks, and I have to let those dry. And then we'll see we'll see what we can get. That's still wet, so I'm not going to do anything. The great thing is if you're using watercolor pencils, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you some watercolor pencils while I am here and while I'm just sitting right at them. Sitting my they're on my desk, so I'm just going to grab them. And I'm going to show you how, if you want to play with watercolor pencils, you can do that. Let's see. So here's just some water. You can do it like this, you know, like here, wet into wet. So I've got slightly damp. As you know, this was sort of damp. You look how creamy that is. It's like, wow. This is on dry. So dry is going to be different. I'm going to try a different color. I keep going to the blues. I'm going to go with purple. No, this is an Inktense. So let's see what an Inktense does. That was a Caran d'Ache watercolor Inktense. Different animal too. I'm going to go into the damp and then go into the dry. So you can see damp is on here and the dry is over here. Oh, yummy. So this is fun. You can do so many things. So the watercolor pencils, Inktense, all that, fantastic. And I'm just going to take a little water and see what happens when I move it around. Does it leave a little line like an obvious demarcation? Yes, it does. So you know it goes into the color, you know, see how it's just leaving a little where my lines are. Now I like that because you can make texture that way as well. So this one, I'm going to show you the Posca. It should be dry now. And no, it doesn't move the Posca. Can you scrub it? Let's try. Yeah, you can scrub off the Posca a little, but you can just leave a little mark. That's because I think it's because it kind of sits on the surface rather than soaking in. There's a little bit of absorbency in this stuff. And it would be fun to take my colored pencils and do a background and then try to lift it with a stencil. I think that would be fun to try. But so I hope that answered that question. I think we kind of covered.
That was that was really helpful.
Yeah.
And then another question too, just so we don't miss it. Somebody asked what the best way is to mount and frame mineral paper artwork.
Okay, great. Good question, because I was thinking about that myself. Mineral paper, or in like, because actually years ago I was a framer, so the way to properly frame any artwork is you don't want to, you know, like if you have a frame, let's say you buy a frame, and this is, you know, the glass. Here's the glass, and then you have your mat. Usually people like to, if you're doing it behind glass, you would do your glass, clean it really good. Then you have your mat. If it's a white mat, it's a rag mat, whatever. And then you have your artwork. Now, what you do is a lot of people think that, oh, I better put my artwork, you know, put tape around it all the way around. No, you don't. What you do is if you're going to hang your painting, your picture. So let's say this is the finished picture and I'm going to hang it. And it's going to be this orientation. I'm going to hinge my artwork at the top on my mat. So let's say this is a mat. Sorry, I'm giving you a quick lesson on framing, but if you're going to do this, all you need to do is, let's say that's the mat. I don't have one with me. And you're going to take your mineral paper. It doesn't need any other mounting or gluing because it's totally flat. There's nothing that you need to do. You can just take your masking archival tape or whatever you've got, and I would just hinge it right at the top like this. Ooh, almost had a disaster with water on my computer. Not good. Are you still there? I hope.
We are. We're
oh,
here.
good. Woohoo! I'm glad. Okay. See what I'm doing here? I'm hinging. So this is where your mat is. It's going to be, and then you put your backing paper. You don't have to glue it. Just let it hang freely. That's the way you do it in the professional framing industry. You want the artwork to just hang loosely. Then it doesn't buckle over time. This won't buckle anyway, but even your cotton papers won't buckle that way. And so you want something like a better tape than this is just masking tape. I'd say that's not a good idea. If you plan to have longevity, you would want something with acid-free tape. This paper, as you notice, it didn't tear. Which I want to show you another thing. When you're working with this, I hope that helped with that, the framing thing, because even the thin mineral paper, just have a nice acid-free background and you're good. You're not gonna need anything special to mount it or frame it. So this one, I'm gonna mask it. This is something that I didn't do before. I'm just gonna take some plain old washi tape. Oop. And you can do all kinds of little techniques with that too. This one, I'm just gonna washi tape to the edges so I have a nice clean edge. It's not that clean. Oh well. Just trying to rush it here because I know we're kind of time-wise, we only have a few minutes, so I just wanted to show you. You can do this same thing. You can mask off just like you do watercolor paper to get yourself a nice clean edge. And I promise this will not tear. You will not get a tear. You're just going to get a nice clean edge. So I'll just quickly do a little something here. Maybe this time, do I want to stick with the blues? Yes, I'm in that mood. I'm going to try all my blues here. I'm just going to do a little, just a kind of a cloudy sky thing. Look what's happening. I've got natural cloudy skies happening. I don't have to do anything. There's my scene already. Now that's because I only ran it over once and it's going to do that. Now, if I want to make it solid, I would just wet it again and it will get a nice soft edge, which I'm going to do here and show you what I mean. I'm going to wet this with clear. So I'm making a little water scene, little ocean, wetting it down, and I'm just kind of conditioning it, getting it ready for my wash. I'm going to leave that one there. That's lovely as a sky, just like that. Now this one, I've got it nice and damp, and now I'm going to go ahead and put a different color. Maybe some color like I'm using Prussian blue and turquoise so that I can make it look more ocean-like. Now this one, I'm going to get a nice smooth wash because I have, here we go, I'm just going to go right to the edge because I pre-wet it. See how that worked? See, you got two different looks. It's already an ocean scene. I love it. And then I could add, I've kept a little light there. I can start to build water if I wanted to create water sort of shapes. Let's see, using the wrong brush here for that. And this sky is already like wonderful. I'm going to take some turquoise and just kind of throw in some color here just to kind of create my water sort of scene. And then I can also think about my light. I don't know where it's coming from. You see, I'm just kind of making a little watery kind of scene, and then that will look different as it dries. So I can make islands later if I want, and then I can also take my sponge and highlight, or take my brush after that dries and create highlights. And now when that dries, then my edge will be perfectly, and if I'm finished, I'm not finished yet because I just started, but can't wait for that to dry, see what it looks like. One thing when you're drying, if you want to dry it quickly, if you want to use a hair dryer, use a hair dryer on the cool setting. This paper does not like heat. So if it's too hot, it's going to buckle because of the plastic that holds it together. So just use a hair dryer, and just dry with cool air. And then you can get your dry faster. But so if I want to take little spots and create highlights, I'm just taking a fairly clean, I have dirty water, but you get kind of the idea, is I can create little highlights here. And you know what else would be fun is, I don't have any with me, but some rubbing alcohol would probably look really cool with this. So I'm just going to create highlights, lifting areas to give me like the feeling of water. And here we go. You can get as detailed or as not detailed as you want. And that one, that's going to be fun. So that's another way that you can do that and play with it, and just keep adding layers as you want to go, and then I could add more in the sky. I could add birds or whatever I want to add, but I'm going to go ahead and lift this off, and then I can always come back. But I'm lifting it and it's not going to tear. Now there's a little bleed, it went underneath. So, because I had it really wet. Now, what I could do is I could remask that and wipe that off if I want a really clean edge, if I'm going to be really fussy about it. See, it bled through, but I can clean that up. I can actually go back and wipe that all down. And yeah, it just totally went under there. I don't think I rubbed it down good enough, but and some washi tapes, I don't know why, some are really good at making a sharp edge and some just aren't. But like I said, I can just I'm gonna take like a straight edge and then just wipe off that edge. And that will give me that. So there we go. I hope that I inspired you to try mineral paper.
That was
And
fantastic. I think we got a lot of people like really excited about mineral paper. I've heard many people in the comments say that they're going to go out and grab some and start playing with it. So thank you, Karen. We are all feeling super inspired from this one.
I'm so glad. And I hope that, well, we have to have, a jumping off point that really, I'd love to see, like, if you play today, if you have mineral paper, or if you don't, and you just played along, just tag Yasutomo. You can tag me on Instagram. That's pretty much a place where I'd like to see things, and just post what you create, because we'd love to see it. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. I'm gonna add to the little comment, the pinned comment with the list of art supplies, our Instagram handles. So for Karen, it's Karen Elaine Creative, and for Yasutomo, it's Yasutomo_art. But anyway, yeah, we would love to see what everybody creates, and we hope that everyone's feeling super inspired and has fun with the mineral paper, because it really is as wonderful as it looks.